Hi everybody, Carmen here with Quality Sewing, and for this week's How Do I, we are going to talk about how do you make a freestanding design. So the one that we're going to work on today is called the Freestanding Quilt Block Pumpkins. So these are super fun. This is a new design collection from OESD. We love the OESD design collections because they work really well, they're super fun, they're creative, they come up with all of these great ideas. And you can see here, just to give you some examples of some different freestanding items because they're so cute. This is the one that we're going to talk about today. This guy right here, like how cute is this applique freestanding pumpkin, right? There's a couple of different versions in this design collection. And so this is freestanding and there's applique on it. But you can see some other things. This is the Little Shop of Horrors from last year. That's super fun. I love how, since these are all a version of applique, what's really fun is how like this one is using a ton of sparkle vinyl. So you could use fabric, but this guy has a whole bunch of sparkle vinyl in it. So it really makes it fun and festive. And then over here, this is a whole different type. Let me pull it where you can actually see it. This little bouquet of flowers here. This is also a freestanding design. So you can see that there's lots of different variety of types of freestanding designs and types of freestanding designs connected with applique, which is how all of these ones are created. And so today we're going to sort of talk through what that process is and how you put that together. So one of the great things about all of the OESD design collections is they come with this amazing PDF that walks you through step by step how to do this. So you know, when you're not watching me, you can just use this. You don't have to print it. You could, of course, it's just a PDF, so you could view it on your iPad or on your cell phone. But it takes you through everything. It shows you the materials you need, and then it shows the different design collections and what all of the different pieces are, because the way you make these, it's sort of like a puzzle, right? But a fun puzzle, because you have, it tells you exactly where to put everything, which is fun. And so you make all of these different pieces. So to make like this pumpkin, you actually embroider each of the different panels, and then you hook it all together once it is all done. So today we're going to walk through making one of the panels so you can sort of get the idea of how this process works and how you get to the adorable cute pumpkin like this guy right here. And then when you keep going in these instructions, it takes you into here and actually shows you step by step what to do for each step. So we're going to go through these different steps today, but I do love great instructions and the instructions with pictures, because I don't know about you, but I'm not super good about reading all the words, and I know I should be, but I really just like to follow the pictures because that is just so much faster and easier, and OESD does a wonderful job with their instructions. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pop over there and get to where all my supplies are, and we're going to go over all the things that we need. So I have a whole selection of supplies out here. You can see on the table here, I have lots of different things. So the first thing I'm always going to want to do is get everything I need out and ready before I start a project. So since we're going to basically set up to make this little panel here. And so the things that we need some different stabilizers, which I have out here. We need some of our fabric for the applique, and we need a pattern piece. So in order to make this piece, the first thing you're going to do is you could print this onto your applique stitch stabilizer, or like here, I just actually printed it out on paper and cut it out, and I'm just would use it to trace. That's what we did here on this guy. So first, I traced onto, we actually used stable stick. I traced onto the stable stick and made the shape, and then I adhered that onto my fiber form, and then ironed them together and then traced around. So now I have a piece like this that has the sticky on the back. So this fiber form, let's talk about why we're using what we're using. So what the fiber form is what gives this all of that great form, right? If we just use fabric and no fiber form, it would be really floppy, if that makes sense. So that's what fiber form is used in a lot of these freestanding projects, because that's what allows us to be nice and stiff. And there's quite a few different stabilizing products that are used in these freestanding to give everything the form that it needs. So the first thing is we have fiber form on here, and then the reason why we have the applique on the back here is just because it's going to make it handy in a few minutes when we start embroidering, because we're going to be able to lay this down and it will be sticky, so it won't slip and slide when we're layering everything through our embroidery and adding the layers of applique and getting the embroidery design stitched out. Okay, so we get this piece ready first, and then the next thing we are going to do is we also have on here some more stabilizer on our little pieces of fabric that we're going to use for applique. And the reason why we do this is, once again, we want to make everything more firm, so that way we have a little bit everything is going to be stiffer, so it's going to work better for this project, if that makes sense. So we have these two prepped and ready as well. So we have our 3 pieces prepped here, and so now what we can do is we can get our hoop ready. So our hoop is over here, and I'm using the grippy grid, which is super helpful because the grippy grid, I don't know about you, but have you ever been like trying to hoop something and have your hoop just slide out of place? The grippy grid is a great tool because it allows you to put your hoop down. It has some markings on it, which is also really nice when you're trying to line things up, but it makes it so my hoop, if I push on it here, it's not really going anywhere. So it's a really great hooping tool. So what I have here is I have Aqua Mesh stabilizer. Aqua Mesh is a wash away stabilizer. This one is great. It sort of feels like fabric, and recently I learned that Aqua Mesh as a stabilizer is everything, even the adhesive, washes out. So there are other products similar to this in the market where not everything washes out. This stuff actually washes out way better and way easier. Reva and I have just sort of learned this actually this spring, and we were pretty excited about it. So Aqua Mesh is our new favorite for stabilizing when you're going to totally wash it away later. So this is great for freestanding lace. It's great for this sort of application because we're going to get rid of some of this stabilizer once we finish embroidering on it. So we have that, and then we have Badge Master. Now Badge Master, it sort of, I don't know, I sort of think it feels plasticky, but it's like softer than plastic. But Badge Master is a very unique product. Only OESD has this exact product. Because some of these products, Floriani also has a similar product. But in this case, Badge Master is really unique to OESD because of this freestanding lace. We are adding this in as a layer, once again, to help give this shape and form, okay? And you really need Badge Master for that. It's great for making badges. It's great for any of these freestanding things. So we're going to layer that guy in here as well, and we're just going to hoop these up. So pretty straightforward. Just tighten the hoop there, and everything is in. Very simple. So then we are going to go over to the machine here, and I have already opened up my design file here. So I have my design file right here. I'm actually going to move this way so you can maybe see it a little bit better. I have my design file right here. I've already loaded it in. The design file, you can either get the OESD designs by getting them through Design on Demand in the store location, where you come in and we load it into your OESD account, or we also right now have these on USB sticks. But either way, you're going to want to get that design onto a USB stick and put it into your machine, and then you would select the design. And we can go back and sort of see it. So you can see down here I selected my USB, because this machine actually has 2 USB ports, and you can see the different designs that are loaded in here, and this is the one that I wanted, so I just select that guy there, and you can see all the design, all of the color changes here, and we're gonna go to set. And you can see this right here. If we wanted to move it around in our hoop, of course we could do that. You can go to edit here and you could adjust the size, you could move it. I wouldn't recommend adjusting the sizes on these sorts of things on freestanding projects because they are set perfectly and you would have to adjust the size the same for all of them to make it work. So this is the sort of embroidery file that I always like to do exactly in the size that that the design was created in, but you can of course rotate it if, let's say, you wanted to. In this case, we're just embroidering on stabilizer. We don't really need to use any of those features, so we're just going to go to embroidery. Oh, it wants a larger embroidery frame. Well, that was kind of silly of me to not put the right frame on. I have the large embroidery frame, I think. It was here earlier. Maybe someone on my team can go grab it. Yes, that is interesting. Okay, well, good times. We embroidered it. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Here we go. Look at that. We're going to use this hoop instead. Does this ever happen to you where you just need a slightly larger embroidery hoop? This is the one we used for the samples, but this morning we were like, oh, we could have used the smaller one. Let's just use the smaller one. Well, actually, that isn't working. So I'm going to go back here and hoop this up, which will be real fast. Snap this guy out. And then we will lay this guy back in here. Tighten this up. And when you're hooping just stabilizer like this, we just need it to be taut in here so it's not going to come out of the hoop. Something with like the badge master here, if let's say you had a smaller piece of badge master that you just wanted to lay on top, you could just use some of the tape to tape it down if needed. But I think this will work, so we've clamped it on both sides. Okay, now we're going to put this guy back in here. And now when we go to embroidery, it's much happier. Okay, so the first thing we need is a color here. So I'm going to just put in, I think we'll just put in this green just for the purpose of what we are doing, or maybe we'll do the yellow. It's just saying you can use black, but we'll just use yellow so you can see it. And this machine has a really lovely needle threader, which I love so much. All I have to do is do that and then go like this, and it threads that needle for me. And then in my bobbin, I'm just using a white bobbin thread. So now what it's going to do is it is going to trace the outline of the, I almost called this a petal, but this isn't a petal, this little segment of our pumpkin. It's going to do this outline, so then that way I can put my fiber form down. Grab my little, so away it goes, and you can see once again these instructions are telling us step by step what to do next. So now it is done, it's dinged, I'm going to let it do the wiper there, and then we're going to just lay this down. Now if you wanted, you could remove the hoop from your machine. You just never want to take, in this sort of design when you're doing all these layers, you would never want to take the fabric out of the hoop until it is all done. But you can remove the hoop if you need to for lining things up. But I think this is good enough, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to lower that presser foot, and we're going to do the next. Line here. I'm going to get this guy. And for speed, we're just going to stop it here. Normally it would do one more, but we're going to just put this guy, which is the next step in, which is our the first part of the applique to give it that great color there. So this, and now I'm going to use this OESD wash away tape. Actually, this is the tear away. They have a tear away version and they have a wash away version of this tape. And it's just to hold this design down, or not the design, rather the fabric. We're going to hold that fabric down. And we're going to do this guy here, and now it's going to do an outline for me. to get that beautiful fabric on there. And what's really fun, we're using the Moda Grunge fabric here, but you can use all different types of fabric for this applique, and you could even, just like how in this guy here, they used the sparkle vinyl, like how this little leaf here has sparkle vinyl on it as well. You can use, I have sparkle vinyl back here I'll grab. You can use sparkle vinyl for a lot of different parts of applique. So you can see here is some fun sparkle vinyl in all of these different colors, right? And sparkle vinyl is this great product by OESD that actually feels like fabric. The back of it is fabric-y, and it does a really beautiful job. And you can see how in that leaf that I've put somewhere, you can see in this little leaf how cute that is, right? So instead of fabric, any of the places in these where I'm using fabric today, you could use sparkle vinyl if you wanted to create a really different look. Okay, then we are going to go on to the next color here, and this is where we are going to trim this fabric. So I'm going to, this is one of those moments where I'm probably going to take it out of the hoop. And this is what's so fun about doing applique projects on your embroidery machine where it's already been set up for you. So what it's done here is it's done this little line around, and so now I just am going to trim all the way around this. And this is one of those moments, like I said, where I'm going to pull this guy out here, and I'm going to go back over to my table where I have a nice flat space to work on. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to trim around this where they have given me a beautiful line. And this way I don't have to have all of the shapes pre-cut out because the machine's giving me the line, and then it's going to satin stitch around it. So we're just going to trim it as close as we can. If you had a nice pair of those little duckbill scissors, those work really well for getting a little bit closer in here to get as close as you can, but it's done a nice job here. And then we're going to put this guy in here, back in, and now it is going to do another outline for me because we want to lay in the color. And you can sort of see, I'll move here so you can see on my screen, it's always showing me right there on the screen exactly which area it is going to embroider next. And for the purpose of this, I'm not going to change the colors because these are all just sort of outline tack down stitches. And you can see when we get later in the file for these white lines and these satin stitch lines, those are the ones where you're going to actually be able to see the color. Right now what the machine is doing is just giving us all of those outline stitches so we can get all the applique fabric in there before it does all of the finishing. So the next fabric here that we want to use for this is going to be this little green fabric. So I'm going to lay it down right here. Now if we and you could put a very large piece or a smaller piece. We're just going to put a little bit so you can just get the idea of how it would get started. The piece I have here is actually not big enough, so we're just going to sort of show you how it lines up here. And it's going to do that outline. And so then for time here, we're just going to do that first one, and I'm going to stop it. And then we would do the same thing where we would come back over here and we would trim everything back out again. So we'd trim this guy, and you can see, I'll show you on the finished piece here. Trim off all of that And what we're going to do is we're going to forward on the design here to where it starts satin stitching so you can see how that sort of works. But you're going to trim this guy back, and then the machine will do the satin stitching. Okay, got that guy here. And let me grab my actual panel so you can see where this is. So what we're making is this guy right here, okay? So you can see that this in here, you can see how we're just layering everything up, right? We started with that fiber form and that stabilizer. We have the stabilizer down here, and we put in the orange fabric, and then we put in that green fabric is what I put here, and you would just keep putting, you would put all of those layers of fabric, and it does it one layer for this, and then for this guy, and then when you can go all the way down here, and you can see that then what it does is it starts satin stitching. So I'm going to actually turn this way so you can see my screen again. I'm just going to forward so I can sort of show you what the satin stitch looks like, and I'm going to forward down. On almost all machines you have the ability to go forward or backwards, either by color or number of stitches. This is great when you break thread. This is also great for times when you maybe you have a design, you don't want to do all of it, right? Because sometimes we do that. We're like, I just don't want to do that whole section of a design. So then we're just going to go forward here and go down to where, I'm just going to go to this big satin stitch here so you can sort of get an idea, but we're not going to do all of it. But then you would hit go here, and it is going to satin stitch around the edge and make the little top piece all in one go. So we're going to let that go, and hopefully you can still hear me well enough, and we're going to talk about what the next steps would be. So it's going, so you can sort of see how the satin stitch, it's building this little section right here, and then it's going to satin stitch all the way around the panel piece here. So you would take that and you would do this, you would finish all the embroidery, you would do the satin stitches around all the pieces so you get to the piece that looks like this right here. And then you would take the whole thing out of your hoop, and then you will trim all the way around and try to get as much excess stabilizer as you can away from this piece. And then you are actually going to soak this a little bit and rinse it off, and you're going to do that until you don't really feel the slimy stabilizer on the back. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but a lot of times you can still sort of feel the stabilizer as it's washing away. And then you're going to set this somewhere and let it dry overnight, okay? And you're going to do this 6 times. So you would have the 6, as I start throwing things here, you would have the 6 panels here, and you can see this little piece here is that little top part that is getting, that's down in here, that sort of goes, you can sort of see it, it's what loops into this guy, is this little guy here. And then you're also going to do the designs to make the little stem top, and if you want, you would do the design to make the little leaf, and you can see we made one of those leaves with the sparkle vinyl, which is fun. Okay, but let's talk about how you actually hook all these together. So you have all 6 of these, right? You got these 6, you've got this guy, and this is once again where the instructions are great because they walk you through which order to put them. It walks you through how to put it together. But what's really ingenious about the way all of these designs have been done is all of these little guys, right? These are little hooks and eyes. So you can see here on this guy, right? One side, little hooks were made, right? And over here we have little eyes. And that's part of the reason why you have to rinse all the stabilizer away, right? Because you got to make sure that those eyes are open. And then you are just going to, let's see, I'm like trying to think about, would it be better if I stood? Can you guys see this okay? I go this way, see it okay? Okay, so you can see the eyes on this side and the hooks on this side, and you use these really great little alligator clamp. They're not scissors, it's just an alligator clamp tool by OESD. And you grab the eye here, or the hook rather, and you throw it through the eye. And you just use this little thing, and the whole little point of the scissor, I don't know why I keep calling it a scissor, but it just goes through, the sense it's like a little needle eye thing, it just goes through all the way through. I don't know if you can see that. Probably can't. Let's see if I put it here. Can you see it better? Not really. If I pull it, maybe can you see? You see how the little metal piece is coming through? And that is how that hook goes all the way through there, and now it is latched. Yeah, there we go. We can see it better. Perfect. Okay, and then you would do the same thing over here where you grab this guy and put it right through the hole. And because this actual scissor is narrow, it goes up through that hole like that. Oop, there we go. You can see it, sorry, like that. And then you can pull it back out. And now these are hooked together. So what makes this so much easier is you have to have these little alligator clamp scissors, because without those, you really, or alligator clamp tool, I really just want to call them scissors because they clamp, but they actually, there's nothing that will cut here, don't worry, it will not cut your design, but that's really what you'd use to put all of the little hooks and eyes together. And these hooks and eyes, when we look at some of these other designs, you can see that the hooks and eyes are what they use for almost all of their different freestanding. It's how, like, even down here you can see, sometimes for the hooks you have to use a little punch tool to punch the hole. So like if you get done with one of them and the hole isn't fully, it's embroidered on, you're going to use a little, there's a little fabric or something left in there, you'll use their punch tool to punch the hole. But you can see how those have been used throughout this whole thing for putting it together for this guy, and for this guy. It really is like quite ingenious the way that they designed these. So that way you can make them all flat and then put them together. And because you have to put them together, this is sort of why it reminds me of those 3D puzzles that are everywhere, because you get all the pieces and then you got to put it together, but of course they have really good instructions, so it makes it a lot easier. So you can see now this guy is going through and it's starting to put in the hooks and the eyes, and it's going and doing all of that detailed embroidery. So I'm going to pause it here, because obviously, you know, that's like 20 minutes of stitching, so we're not going to stitch it, we're not going to complete the whole thing, but you can see how this turns into this, right? And it goes through and it does all of the finishing embroidery, so it looks perfect and gorgeous in the colors that you have chosen. And then you wash away all that stabilizer and you're left, let it dry, and you're left with this piece, and then you can make the rest of them, and then you can build your adorable quilted applique freestanding pumpkin. So super fun. OESD, as always, has amazing designs. So I hope this was helpful. If you've never done any freestanding embroidery, hopefully this gives you an idea of how the freestanding embroidery connected with the applique works. And of course, all of the different, these embroidery designs, all the different stabilizers we talked about, the tools, all of those things we do have on our website at qualitysewing.com and in each of our store locations. So we're here live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with a different tip or trick on something, and we'll teach you something new each week. So happy sewing, and I'll talk to you soon.